slants of dawning light barely crested the horizon when Carmen and Atticus dragged their exhausted, sweaty, soil-laden selves into Shane's yard, preceded by a 2-hour stumbling walk through the dark woods, further punctuated by weary silence and occasional grunts due to repeated sights of tripping on underbrush or knocking of heads into low-hanging branches. They'd popped out of the woods directly behind Shane's workshop and were immediately welcomed by Alamo with all the slobbering and pawing that came with it. Neither Carmen or Atticus paid much attention to the dog as the 2-hour trek had left their bodies in shambles and their minds sedated. Carmen didn't see any vehicles. That was good. No one home meant no explanations to no one.
Shane might still be at the hospital with Amy.
Then we wait. Atticus continued walking toward the trailer. Shiny beads of sweat trickled down his lean arms. Streaks of filth and woodland debris resembled black and brown war paint smeared over his skin.
Why Shane? I mean, of all the millions of people in the world, why is Shane the one to help you kill this beast?
Atticus took the front steps like he owned the place. Shane and I were born under the sign of champions. Our cosmic essence is linked, and once we master our skills, we will be the champions of humanity. The only force that can reckon the beast.
And you're sure he's the one?
I was told by a reliable source. But more concretely, I felt the counterpole of our powers when Shane confronted me. It was impossible for either of us to physically strike one another. The forces of nature wouldn't allow it. None in the Order must have known of this counterbalancing law, or else we would have known from the start that Rorn was not my true twin. Carmen had gone to college, made good grades, and gotten herself a degree. A performance art degree, but a degree nonetheless. Yet the things that Atticus said confounded her in ways that advanced trigonometry and statistics had never managed to do. And the damn university had said she was getting a well-rounded education. Star and planetary alignments, the space-time continuum, wormholes to other times and planes, and a host of sentient beings that had existed since the crack of time. Since before the primordial protozoan oozes had even given any thought to crawling out of the deep, dark seas. These beings had inhabited worlds and planes far more civilized than anything humans had accomplished in their multi-billion years. After the beast was defeated and this craziness was said and done, would she be the same? She'd never been one to show fear. And if something did scare her, she'd never admit it. But this was different, because there was actually things to be afraid of. Piss your panties afraid. Carmen gripped the corner of the sofa like the horn on a saddle, keeping herself from falling over from exhaustion. When she was younger, she used to go fishing with her cousin Hector and Gina. Somebody would always have to help Gina bait her hook because she wouldn't touch the squirmy worms, crickets, or shiners. Carmen had no problem threading a big, juicy nightcrawler through an eagle claw hook, or with the soft crunching noise of pushing the hook through a cricket's head. Not even the slimy feel of the oily guts of the minnows. But Ignonid could have just as easily threaded her through with its countless tendrils. She could have been the squirming, bloody carcass, bones crunching, her innards seeping out, mouth eternally agape. To Ignonid, people were insignificant crickets inside a mesh cage, living in our own filth and oblivious to our near future fate. Sticky grunge clung to her skin just like slippery wet guts. A stringent foul odor wafted from the pasty leaves caked on her arms and legs. I gotta take a shower. She didn't give Atticus a second glance. She didn't care what the hell he was doing. She had to get clean. Amy had tossed and turned and moaned all night long. A few times Shane had gotten up from his stiff, oversized cushioned chair and checked on her. Her skin felt unusually warm. but there were no signs of excessive sweating. Several times a nurse had checked on her and said she was doing fine. So Shane forced himself to retreat back to the shitty, uncomfortable chair. Almost 12 hours after arriving to the hospital and a restless night's sleep for the two of them, Shane was ready to take Amy home. Dr. Haywood was the specialist that would help remove the stone in Amy's chest, but he was flying in from Boston and wasn't due for over a week. The doctor assured Shane that Amy was in no immediate danger. Though he'd not had the patience or inclination to argue, Shane had been sold enough bullshit in his life that he knew a bullshit peddler when one was bending his ear. Ain't nobody ever known of an organic stone getting lodged in someone's chest and becoming an extension of that person. The military didn't even have that sort of technology. Or if they did, then it was locked up somewhere behind a dozen titanium doors, all requiring fingerprint and teeth records for clearance. Shane drove the jalopy to the front entrance and idled, waiting for the nurse. On the bench seat beside him, he patted his gun, a gesture to calm his nerves. Amy had told Abe that a beast was after her. Why was this beast after her? What or who was this supposed beast? Did any of it have to do with the craziness that tore up Roxy's diner? A hunter killed. Others seriously injured. Charlie missing, snatched into nothingness, a rift in the air. He'd give his left nut to sweep all this shit far from her pretty head, far from his own mind, far from their lives. He just wanted a normal life. With Amy. 2.5 kids, a dog, a cat, a lawn that needed mowing, a washing machine that needed fixing, a kettle of tea on the stovetop, and a deep freezer full of deer and hog meat. A normal life. Too much to ask for, God? Yeah, I guess you're too busy answering the prayers of people who actually talk to you, huh? Well, screw you. He scooped Amy from the seat and into the jalopy. As he rounded the front of the truck, he felt a tap on his shoulder that compelled him to snap around. A folded paper was shoved in his face. The nurse smirked and retreated back into the hospital. 1 beverage vending machine and 1 snack vending machine. $13,846. Fuck Little Debbie and Dr. Pepper. Doing okay? She nodded. But she didn't look all right. She was too damn pale. She was too damn thin. She was just too damn quiet. Whoever this was riding shotgun with him, this disheveled blonde with the empty stare, was a runt mannequin of the girl he'd made love to 2 days earlier. A mannequin that someone had tossed over a goddamn overpass and broke it to pieces. Don't sweat it. It would be okay. That specialist would fix her. Amy tapped 1 foot left and right, but not to any beat. She twirled a lock of her hair around her finger. Every time he glanced over, Amy was blankly looking out the passenger window. She shifted her weight. Then she returned to staring out the window. Was she nervous? In pain? Were thoughts of the night before and days ahead reeling through her mind, making her a basket case of worry? He needed to talk to her. Break the uncomfortable silence. Get his Amy Ray back. The doctor had confirmed that Amy was, in fact, pregnant. And Amy's reaction was to simply nod. Didn't she want the baby? More importantly, did he want the baby? Hell, he couldn't fuck up parenting any worse than his mom and dad had. Mom was a drug addict and MIA. She left in a heap of agitation, hate, and neglect, and leaving him the sole chaperone of his little brother. Dad, not much better a story there. The guy was a drunk and MIA. Like an escaped fugitive, the old man just climbed out the bedroom window one night and stole away into the night. Hasta la vista, el familio. Being a father scared the living crap out of Shane. But Amy's strange behavior since she woke at the hospital terrified him much more. A stringent scent assailed his nostrils. The odor smelled of ammonia and... what? He scrunched his nose and sniffed. The putrid scent was growing stronger. Had he ran over a polecat? He sniffed his pits, but he only smelled like soap. Or maybe deodorant. He chanced a quick look at Amy, who was still acting nervous and twitchy. Maybe it was Amy that stank. Shower, first thing when they got home. He patted her thigh. So, we're pregnant? Amy flinched. She blinked. She blinked again. Her head bobbed, gawking up and down her body. She was clothed. But last she knew, she was taking a shower, just as the nurse instructed her to. The scent of motor oil wafted from the floorboard in the truck. The time on the digital radio glowed. 6 a.m. How long this time had she blacked out? In the span it took to think, she'd lost hours of her life. The radio clock blinked 6 again. And again. Over and over, piercing her sensitive eyes. Amy ran her palms down her thighs. And back up. Despite her blackouts and almost dying in the woods, she'd never felt more alive. Bolts of power surged and coursed throughout her entire body, aching in the most primal sense, awakening her to a rush of phenomenal strength, endurance, alertness, and instincts. Strange alien instincts informed her brain that the jewel in her chest was to be credited. And as the yellow lines belonging to the highway sped by, she started to become more anxious. The windows and the dashboard and the plastic interior of the truck door all served as iron bars manifesting a large mobile cage that was transporting her somewhere. So many sights. So many sounds. The sweet, exotic fragrance of the pines that sprawled a curtain of rolling hills, and birds taking flight toward the magnificent hot sun. It was like she'd never seen the natural world before. Stretching skies of endless horizons, forever and forever driving off into the great freedom beyond. Amy yearned. It was an astounding realization that she had never seen the natural world in this way before. Unleashed, unchained, unbridled, free and wild. Savage beauty aglow with the vitality of the sun, and the spirit of the wind, and the worship of the trees to the earth. Shane. He'd asked her a question. She was sure of it. She looked at him.
What?
You're pregnant, don't you remember? Amy palmed her stomach.
Yes. Yes. I suppose I am.
Tobias. He was the baby in her stomach. And he was so strong. She closed her eyes and listened to his heartbeat. So very, very strong. If it's a girl, can we name her Victoria? Vicky? You sure you're okay? Maybe I should take you back to the hospital. She gripped the door handle with her right hand and the bench seat with the other, kicking chaotically at the floorboard and dash. One more minute trapped between those narrow white walls and she might have imploded. Nurses and needles and instruments and beds, metal bars and walls. White walls. Not much better than inside this truck. No fucking way. Did she just say the F word? Had she thought it or said it? What the fuck? She slapped a hand over her own mouth. He took her in his arms, her back to his chest. Tucking his head beside hers, he trailed kisses on her cheek and neck. I love you. Why was his voice so shaky and coarse? Was he upset with her? She was acting strangely, she could admit. It was like having amnesia, except she still had her memories. It was all just so surreal. How long had she been walking around in a waking dream? How long had reality been away from her grasp? He was going to take her back to the hospital. She just knew it. Run. Get free. Never stay caged. Gotta run. Now. The most amazing tingle vibrated in her core. In her groin. In her... I'm okay. She had to convince him she was good and healthy and back to her normal self. Because she didn't want to go back to that colorless cave, hospital. But she felt anything but normal. She was horny as hell. A rabid monster of a sexual appetite was festering between her thighs. And she wasn't even ashamed to admit it to herself. Flashes of naked men paraded through her mind. Their genitals hard, gleaming like oiled stones. She craved every single one of them, all at once. On every inch of her deprived body. Especially inside of her hungry sex. She needed to fuck. Oh yeah. She needed cock like a saint needed God. Stiffening, she covered her mouth again, as if she'd said the F and C word aloud. What in the heck was wrong with her? Leave. Flee.
Don't take me back. I won't go.
Shane pulled her tighter against his body. His arms coiled tightly around her midsection. hands laced over her abdomen. Like a broken-winged bird, caged and bandaged, she was trapped. But Amy wasn't an animal, and Shane's arms weren't compressed bandages. He was the man she loved. He was the man she was engaged to marry. Amy looked down at her stomach where she carried Shane's child. Here she sat with the man she loved, huddled together like hunter and prey. No, 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 like two people in love. When Vicky died, everything changed. His voice was low but confident and frightening. He was a stranger. She didn't know this man. Help! He's going to kill you. Dad got shit-faced all the time. Mom was catatonic. My family was spiraling to somewhere dark and scary, and there wasn't a thing I could do about it. It was the most frustrating time in my life. Until now. You seem different. Distant. I don't know how to help you, and it's nothing short of torture. Talk to me. Tell me what you need. Tell me what to do, what to say. Amy forced herself to exhale. Relax. So many mixed up feelings and questions and sensations running through her body. Exhilaration. Pain. Wickedly strange. Why? Because I love you. Why do you think? He turned her in his arms until she faced him. Shane ran the back of his hand down the side of her face. Baby, please, it's me. A vivid memory blinked in her mind. The first time he tried to make homemade mashed potatoes. Or was it mac and cheese? Clumpy. Rubbery. Massive nastiness. Tasteless sauce. Needed more salt. Or meat. Tears pricked her eyes. Shane? Shane? It's me. She squeezed his face between her hands and planted a hard kiss on his lips. Her tongue probed inside his open mouth. She clawed at his tea, grabbing the hem with both hands, trying to rip it in two. But it wouldn't tear. So she grabbed for the clasp on his jeans, but he stayed her hand. You just got out of the hospital. He clutched her hand inside his own, keeping it trapped and unmovable. But she didn't want to be trapped. She wanted to fly free. He was here to tame her. Enslave her. Never. Run! Amy scooted across the bench seat. Her back now against the passenger door, she furtively felt behind for the door handle. Now! She ran. And ran. And ran. Isaac!